This is our last Marshall Monday session of this season, so thanks for joining. We've got the University of Kent with us. So I'm going to hand over to Katie Jewett, who is an international officer at the University of Kent. She's going to give a brief overview of Kent, and then we're joined by a few academics, and then there'll be a Q&A as well. So I'll hand over to you, Katie, to introduce the rest of the program today.
Great, thanks, Haley. Let me just share my screen one moment. Okay, hopefully everyone can see this.
Yep, we can see it.
Okay. Yeah, so thanks again, Haley. And thanks everyone who's attended this session today. My name is Katie Jewett. I work within the international recruitment team at the University of Kent. So I have responsibility for recruiting, helping students traveling to the Americas, but mostly focusing on the USA and Canada, as well as Europe. You can probably hear from my accent, I'm also American myself. I studied a master's degree at Kent in 2016, and I've been working for the university for about 3 years now. My contact details are just on the slide here, so you're welcome to email me kind of with any queries, or our international team too. So I am joined today by 3 of our academics in the School of English, and I will make those introductions in just a moment. But first, I'd like to talk just a bit about the University of Kent to give you an overview. So we are located in, our main campus is located in Canterbury in England. In the most recent Research Excellence Framework, the REF results, we have been classified as a world-leading research university across the arts, humanities, sciences, and social sciences. We've also been placed as a top 50 university in the UK, and that's been on more than one occasion. We have approximately 18,000 students between undergraduate and postgraduate courses, so we're classified as more of a mid-sized institution in the UK. It seems kind of large compared to some universities in the US, but more of a mid-sized institution in the UK. And we have 157 nationalities represented on the campus. So a lot of international students, close to a quarter of our population are international students. We also have a lot of academics from other countries. So it's a very diverse campus. We have, like I said, our main campus is located in Canterbury. You can kind of see on the map here. We also have another campus in Medway. So it is a smaller one, but we do have special courses here, such as business, medicine, journalism, social work, child protection. So we do have some courses based in Medway, but our main campus is in Canterbury. These are both within the county of Kent. That is why we're called the University of Kent. And then we have a postgraduate center in Paris that only deals with postgraduate courses, School of Arts, creative writing. We are winding down our postgraduate center in Brussels. We did teach politics, international relations, law in Brussels, but we are winding down there after this year. That's just why you don't see it on the map right now. So just to give you an overview of kind of the study options and what we offer at Kent. So we have undergraduate and postgraduate degrees, including bachelor's, top master's degrees, master's by research, and PhDs. And then these cover a range of schools of thought, including arts and humanities, law, social policy, journalism, the natural sciences, human and social sciences, business, computing, engineering, and mathematical sciences. And then some of our majors that are more popular among American students, especially at the postgraduate level, include English, American literature, creative writing, film, psychology, politics, lots of things to do with IR, international relations, law, some business courses, bio courses, and multimedia journalism. So Just to give you an overview of fees, our annual tuition fees for international students for standard courses are £18,000. If it's a lab-based course or has a practical component, it's about $21,900. Our Kent Business School has different fees, so those just vary. And then annual accommodation ranges from about £5,000 to £8,000. For students that aren't coming on a Marshall Scholarship or any kind of other scholarship, we do offer specific scholarships for international students, as well as the FAFSA is also available at Kent. So just to introduce my colleagues here from the School of English. As I mentioned, I'm here with Matt Whittle, Amy Sackville, and Ryan Perry. So our School of English course, a lot of courses within our School of English at the postgraduate level are some of our most popular offerings amongst our American students. So this is why we wanted to share a bit more with you about this. Matt is here with us. He's a lecturer in post-colonial literature and a director of graduate studies for top programs in the School of English. He teaches and has published widely on 20th and 21st century literature, dealing with the climate crisis, migration, and the treatment of refugees, as well as the legacies of the British Empire. His latest co-authored book, Global Literature and the Environment, will be published by Routledge later this year. So like I said, we're also joined by Amy Sackville. She's a reader in creative writing. She writes novels, short fiction, and occasional journalism, and her teaching and research interests focus on contemporary and modernist fiction, experimental writing, writing in place, ekphrasis, and the historical novel. Her most recent book, Painter and the King, tells the story of artist Velázquez's time as court painter to Philip IV of Spain, and she's also a fellow of the Royal Society of Literature. And last but not least, we have Ryan Perry here with us also. He's a reader in medieval literature. He studies medieval English literature from Chaucer's Canterbury Tales to medieval devotional writing, often in relation to their manuscript contexts or to the cultures of reading practice that took place in the period. He's currently principal investigator on a research project called Whittington's Gift, investigating England's common library built in London's Guildhall building complex around 1423. So now I'll just hand over to Matt to tell us a bit more just about our School of English provisional offerings for postgraduate courses. So there you go, Matt.
Thanks, Katie. And yeah, nice to meet everyone virtually. I'm just going to share my screen as well. A moment. This works. So yeah, can everyone see that okay? Yeah, okay. Yeah. So I'm just going to talk just give you an overview of the MA offerings that we have in English before Amy gives you a sense of creative writing, and then Ryan's going to talk about possible further study into PhD research, postgraduate research degrees. So yeah, like I say, really good to meet everyone. And very honoured to be bringing the Marshall Mondays to a close. Yeah, I think if anyone's been following the Glastonbury coverage, I guess this makes us a headliner akin to Elton John, perhaps, which is a very privileged position to be in. So yeah, so I'm just going to talk a little bit about the MA coverage, and we'll have time for questions, and always do reach out by email as well if you want to discuss anything off the chat. So the School of English itself, as Katie was saying, has been recognised as excellent in research, as world leading. So you'd be taught by staff on the MA that are actively engaged in world leading research. Katie's given a sense of just the three of us here, but everyone's engaged in different forms of research that covers a wide range of topics, a wide range of periods, a wide range of forms of literature, from the novel to poetry to archival material cultures. And so various members of staff specialize in innovative, interdisciplinary and cross-disciplinary research. So that means we don't just focus on the literature itself, but a lot of our research stretches out into areas like anthropology, perhaps, or history or economics. So there's lots of different ways in which literature is the kind of focus point that allows the research that we do, and therefore the teaching that we do, to branch out into other subject areas as well. So, for example, we have staff working at the intersection between critical and creative writing. We have staff working collaboratively with creative practitioners to produce new work. And this means, as I say, interdisciplinary and cross-disciplinary methodologies being used. So, for example, we have people working in the medical humanities, thinking about, for example, the relationship between literature and representations of disability. Have people like myself who work in the kind of environmental humanities, thinking about literature's role in raising awareness and kind of providing, thinking through solutions to the climate emergency, for instance. I have people working in the digital humanities, think about the relationship between literature and perhaps things like AI, the animal humanities, material culture studies, archaeology, performance studies. So all these different kind of ways in which literature stands at the center, but then stretches out into these other areas. And through this research, and therefore and the research that informs all of our teaching, there's a real strong focus on social impact. So I'll just give you a couple of examples of what that means. So I have a couple of, just introduce you to a couple of projects that staff have been working on. So for example, there's one of our most prominent projects is called Refugee Tales. And this is a project led by our colleague, Professor David Hurd, been at the university many years, and he works with a charity called the Gatwick Detainees Welfare Group to share the stories of people who have experienced indefinite detention in the UK. So this is a project very much focused on the treatment of people seeking asylum in the UK, a kind of a way in which literature is used to think through and challenge the kind of ideas underpinning the hostile environment in the UK. And one of the things that this project does is it publishes volumes of short stories. They're informed by the experiences of people seeking asylum, and they're written by figures such as Abdul Razak Gurna, who's a former colleague, used to teach at the University of Kent in the School of English, recently retired, but went on to win the Nobel Prize for Literature in 2021. Also stories by people like Ali Smith and Bernardine Evaristo. I've just got a couple of the volumes here. So this is a project that's hosted by the School of English and has real kind of real world impacts as well. And like I say, David works very closely with the welfare group that has links with people experiencing indefinite detention in the UK when they're coming here to apply for asylum. Another project is called Beyond the Spectacle, Native North American Presence in Britain, and that's led by another colleague, Professor David Stirrup. Not all of our professors are called David, by the way. It's just these two. And this is a project which is funded by the Arts and Humanities Research Council, and it brings together an international team of researchers and Native North American people to amplify the stories of Indigenous travellers in the historical record, so stretching back to the 16th, 17th centuries and through to the current moment. This project also funds residencies for Indigenous artists from North America to create new works while they're in the UK. They organise public symposia and they support the process of connecting Indigenous communities with archival material and cultural belongings that might be held in institutions such as the National Archives and the British Museum here in the UK. So that's just a couple of examples of the way in which the kind of world-leading research that we do that underpins all of our teaching, both at undergraduate and postgraduate levels, has this kind of wider social impact. And this informs a lot of the kind of events and talks and things that students across the university are also invited to as well. Okay, so to delve a bit more into the master's programs themselves, so the programs are led by our research, and they're inspired by and they're connected to that staff research. So through the teaching that we do, obviously you have access to this cutting edge research as well. And students are encouraged to explore their own interests and find new intersections between literature, culture, society, politics, science, and history. So it's about kind of providing a kind of an atmosphere and an environment for you to kind of come and hear about the research we do and to see what you're interested in, and then we can help you to follow that path and to kind of explore those interests even more. Okay, so modules provide the training in theoretical, critical, and methodological tools to undertake this independent research ultimately. So you begin with modules that provide the basis for your own independent work, and then you may well take that on into different areas of employment, or even pursue a research degree under a PhD perhaps that Ryan's going to talk about. So students are encouraged and invited at the University of Kent to immerse themselves in and also contribute to the research culture of the school. Okay, so we just to emphasize that we see MA students not just as participating in seminars, but as researchers themselves, as budding researchers that are going to shape the discipline of English literature and the humanities more broadly wherever they end up. Okay, so that's what we really invest in your future there. So the programs that we offer at MA level, so these are the talk programs. So we have the MA in English and American Literature, and this is the core MA program for critical analysis rather than creative. We also have the MA in American Literature and Culture, which has a specific focus on Anglo-American literature. And also we have the MA in Creative Writing, which is the core program for creative writers, as the title suggests, that Amy's going to talk about. So the main difference between, I'm just going to focus on these first two. The main difference being that the former, the MA in English and American Literature, provides you with, students on that module on that program take any of the modules available. So from across any time period, any kind of geographical region, we've got lots of options. The MA in American Literature and Culture focuses specifically on modules that are about American literature. You can, if you wanted to do the MA in English and American Literature, the broad kind of core program, you do also have access to the modules that are also taught under the American Literature and Culture MA as well. So it's not, so you get access to a wide range either way. So just going into a bit more detail there. So firstly, the core module, the MA in English and American Literature. So you get to choose from a wide range of modules that covers everything from the early modern period, Shakespeare, right through to the 21st century. We have modules with a wide geographical range, so texts and writers that emerged from Britain, from North America, specifically kind of African American and Native American texts, also from Africa, from India, from the Middle East. The University of Kent and the School of English is one of the very first universities in the UK to offer post-colonial modules and to focus on modules that are kind of core to thinking about literatures from the global south. So you've got a real kind of like pedigree and tradition of teaching that and really valuing literatures from the global south here at the University of Kent, as well as thinking about texts from across Europe and from across America as well. And all these modules involve a kind of variety of critical, theoretical, and methodological approaches. So that might mean focusing on material culture and archival work, kind of stuff that Ryan does. It might mean drawing on queer theory, on critical race theory, on post-colonial theory and animal humanities. So a lot of my work kind of brings post-colonial animal humanities stuff together. We've got experts in Marxism, in phenomenology, in authorship studies, in feminism, and also in disability studies, in the medical humanities. So a real wide range of theoretical approaches that if some of these are unfamiliar to you, that doesn't matter. Like a lot of the modules are there to kind of build upon your interest that you might already be bringing. But also, if you're unfamiliar with any of these critical theories, you're not expected to know them in depth already. The modules are designed to introduce students to these theories for the first time. I remember when I did my MA, I didn't know anything about post-colonial theory, and I discovered it on the MA for the first time, and that's kind of shaped my career. So we're trying to kind of foster that as well, and make sure people kind of get the kind of people who might not be aware of these theories are kind of embedded in them and feel comfortable in studying them as well. So that's the kind of core MA for kind of critical analysis. And then we have the MA in English, MA in American Literature and Culture, where there's a focus on American culture and conflict on this particular MA, where there's a wide range of topics covered, including critical race theory, transatlantic literature, American modernism, Cold War fiction. So we have experts in that area. And this particular MA also involves a field trip to a major library in the United States or another research destination, where you'd be accompanied by one of our members of staff. And this is aimed at developing your research skills as well. So that particular institution, I can give you details. Anyone wants to know the person to contact who actually convenes this MA, that's our colleague Will Norman. I'm more than happy to pass on his details. He'd be happy to chat to anyone who wants a little bit more detail about this particular MA. But as I say, there's a wide range, and the modules that are linked to this MA are also available on the other MA program as well. Okay. So just to give you a sense of kind of the overview, so this goes for both of those programs that I've just mentioned. You have the option to study either full-time or part-time. Full-time would be 1 year, part-time would be over 2 years. There's not much difference between them other than the amount of work you do per year. So if you're doing full-time, all MAs are kind of split into 2 stages. So you have to pass stage 1 before you proceed to stage 2. Stage 1 for full-time students, you choose in the autumn term, so that's September to December, you choose 2 optional modules, and everyone has to do a compulsory advanced literary research module, which is quite a light touch module, but just gives everyone a kind of grounding in how to write dissertations and how to write academically. Because we know that everyone, especially on an MA, people are coming from lots of different backgrounds, different kind of teaching styles. And so we just want to make sure everyone's on the same page when it comes to preparing for their dissertations. So there's a compulsory module, advanced literary research, but the other modules you can pick. You can choose any modules from across our provision. And then similarly for the spring term, so that's January to April, you choose another 2 additional modules. Each module generally has a 5,000 word essay attached to it. There are potentially some variations, but as a whole, that's generally the rule for assessment. And once you pass that first stage, you go through into stage 2, which is the summer term, where you choose your own dissertation that you want to focus on. That can be on anything you want to write about, any period, any author. You get assigned an academic member of staff who meets with you and talks your project through with you, and can read some of that work and read and give you some feedback on it. And then once it gets to the end of the summer term in August, you submit your 15,000 word dissertation. And along the way, there's various workshops on research and writing skills that can help you with your dissertation. And there's workshops on employability skills as well. So writing a CV, preparing for an interview, those kinds of things. Part-time over 2 years, again, very similar. The only difference really is it's in year 1. You have 2 optional modules, so 1 in the autumn and 1 in the spring. And then when you go into year 2, you have another module, 1 in the autumn, and then another 1 in the spring. And then this stage 2 is when you write your dissertation over the summer of the 2nd year. Okay, and again, it's the same amount, it's the same setup for the dissertation as well. And again, the same, you've got access to all the same kind of workshops as well. So you're not at any disadvantage if you do it part-time. You just have to spread the modules out over 2 years. And lastly, I just wanted to kind of draw attention to some of the extracurricular opportunities that we've got here at the university. So one of the things we offer in the School of English is students can undertake editorship roles on our postgraduate journal called Literae Mentis. This is a journal which is fully driven and coordinated by taught postgraduate students housed in the School of English. So it gives everyone an experience in writing, in working as part of an editorial team. Also gives people the opportunity to publish their own critical or creative work. So this is at the start of the year, we put out a call for anyone who wants to work on as editors on this particular journal. Usually we get roughly kind of 6 or 7 people. They come together, they decide on a theme. So back in 2021, the theme was rebirth. You know, you can guess why that might be. We were coming out of lockdowns. People were thinking about this topic of rebirth. And That editorial team decides on that particular topic that's completely up to them. They put out a call for contributors from across the Faculty of the Humanities, Arts and Humanities, and invite people to submit proposals for essays, for short articles, for reviews, for pieces of creative writing, and they decide what goes into the final journal. Could be their own work as well. Editors are also able to contribute their own writing. And then at the end of the year, they publish it and have a kind of kind of celebration of that particular journal, where it's out into the world and people can read it and respond to it. That's a really good opportunity if anyone's thinking about getting into editing, or just wants a bit of that, kind of just finds it interesting to work in that area. That's a really good opportunity. And you're also, myself or whoever the director would be when you're studying, checks in and makes sure everything's running. So you're not left completely on your own, but you have kind of autonomy on what you want that journal to look like in terms of speaking to your team members. You're also able to audit modules. So this means that you can sit in on seminars for additional modules. So even if it's a module that you haven't signed up to and you're not going to do any assessment for, you can reach out to conveners of other modules and say, can I be part of this discussion? Okay, so that means that you still have to do the reading and preparation. You still have to go to every seminar every week, and seminars, I should have said, constitute that each week you have a 2-hour seminar per module. So you can go along to other modules and sit in and do the reading and be part of that discussion, but you just don't have to write an essay at the end. So there's no assessment as part of it. Okay, so this gives you access to a wider scope of topics and periods, and can also assist you with when thinking about what you want to do in your dissertation. So if you start off in the autumn and you think, oh, there's this module that sounds really interesting, but I actually prefer to do these other two, but that other one sounds interesting and could help me, it's just links to something I want to write about, get in touch with the convener and you can sit in on those seminars. And the other thing we offer, we've got regular research events, seminars and talks, which are led by leading national and international scholars who come and visit the university. So this can provide you, again, with access to a wide range of topics, thinking about your dissertation, thinking about future research you might want to do, and also provide you with kind of networking opportunities to meet scholars from other universities from across the UK and from outside the UK. Okay, and they're linked to our research centres, so staff are always, invited, students are always invited to any of those events. Okay, so that's kind of all I wanted to say, really. Like I say, more than happy to discuss this any of these projects in more detail. So obviously we can answer questions at the end, but do feel free to send me an email. My email's there if you want to kind of discuss anything, or if you think about a question later down the line, just get in touch with me and I'm more than happy to respond. Okay, thanks, Katie.
Thanks, Matt. We can hand over to Amy now, if you're ready, Amy.
Sure. Oh. Sorry, just trying to figure out how to share my screen. It's being very slow. Apologies. Okay, there we go. Can you see that?
Yes, yep.
Perfect, okay. Okay, so thank you very much for having me. It's very nice to have the opportunity to talk to you all and to connect with the Marshall Scholarships. Matt's covered quite a lot of the sort of structural stuff, so I will keep myself fairly brief and just talk through creative writing at Kent, who we are, what we're about, some details of the course content and what the course has to offer. So first of all, who we are. We are a team of established working writers. All of our MA teaching is delivered by working writers. And we bring, and researchers, of course, and we bring a very wide range of experience to our teaching. So we publish our own novels and short fiction and poetry, long form narrative nonfiction, television scripts. But we also do all the kinds of work that's involved in being a professional writer. So publishing reviews and journalism, appearing at and organising events at regional and national and international levels, running small presses and magazines. So we're bringing all of our understanding of and expertise in the publishing industry in a wider context and the worlds of contemporary poetry and fiction to our teaching. I think we have a very broad range of literary interests and enthusiasms, as you might hope and expect, but we have in common a love of work that is ambitious and risk-taking, that engages seriously with complex concepts and emotions and experience. We've heard from Matt that it's sort of the ethos of the school as a whole to think about the ways in which literature matters in the world. So we think that creative writing can be a means of inquiry, a way of asking questions, a way of thinking about and knowing the world. And that doesn't mean that it can't be funny or light or playful. We like all of those things, and it doesn't mean it can't be quiet and nuanced and subtle. We like that too, but we're really looking for applicants who have that kind of passion and ambition and commitment about their writing, who really want to explore new ideas, who are willing to take risks, to be vulnerable in the pursuit of original and important work. So when we're looking at applications, we really want to get a sense of the ideas they want to explore, the forms they want to explore, and how they hope to develop through the course. We want our students to really push their writing practice, to find their voices individually and in collaboration with each other, and to learn to both recognise and interrogate their own instincts as writers. And I think for me, that's really what the study of creative writing, particularly at postgraduate level, can do, is to teach you to sort of hone your craft and understand your own impulses and question them. Teaching is mostly delivered in 2-hour seminar workshops with classes of usually between 8 and at most 14 students. And what we would typically do would be a combination of reading texts and discussing them as examples, thinking about how the writer has achieved the effects that they have, and also sharing work and reading that work in advance, asking students to critique each other's work, to ask questions of each other as a way of learning those kind of editorial skills, as well as learning how to understand what a writer is trying to do. So this process works both ways, not just for the person whose work is being looked at, but for the people who are doing that reading. So this is our Canterbury campus. I don't know if you see the picture of it yet. So we're up on a lovely hill overlooking the cathedral. It's a very beautiful green campus. And this is briefly the structure of the MA. I think it's quite distinctive as an MA in comparison to some other institutions, in that it allows you to specialise in a chosen form, either fiction or poetry, right from the start of the degree. And we really want to encourage our students to try out different approaches, to explore new ways of working, and you have the opportunity to work in lots of different forms and modes. But you also have this chance to produce a sustained piece of work that you can work on throughout the year, so through those core modules and then into your dissertation in the summer. So you'll end the year or 2 years if you're part-time with a really substantial portfolio or body of work. So alongside those core modules, you have a choice of specialist option modules in creative writing, in narrative nonfiction, and in 21st century translation, which is a really fascinating module that doesn't require any knowledge of other languages, a really interesting way of pushing your own approach to text and to language. You can also choose option modules, as Matt described, from elsewhere in the school or indeed elsewhere in the Division of Arts and Humanities, so you can augment that creative work that you're focused on with some interdisciplinary study from other subjects. And then for your dissertation, you'll work closely with someone who is matched to your project in terms of their research interest, in terms of the form that they have expertise in, to develop an extended piece of writing, which, as I said, can be a continuation of work you started earlier in the programme. It's a very diverse student body, and I think that's worth flagging. There are people from all sorts of different backgrounds and experience and professional backgrounds that come to us. So we have, of course, people who have just finished their undergraduate degrees, but we also have a lot of mature students, everybody from people who have taken a few years out to people who have retired, people who have all kinds of professional backgrounds, sometimes in literature or related fields, but also people who are, we've had a lawyer, we've had a dentist, so people who've just, for either because they have decided that now is the time that they can commit to their writing, that they're very serious about it, or people who have always been writing alongside it and have just decided to give themselves that kind of focus. In addition to those weekly taught seminars, we also have a weekly series of events in term time. So the Creative Writing Reading Series, where we invite working writers, established writers, up-and-coming new writers to come and read from their work and talk to us. And it's quite an informal event. It's a very community building event, which typically our MA students and our PhD students will attend. So it's open to all, but those tend to be the core audience as well as staff members. We've had some really great writers, including Stephen Collis, a wonderful Canadian poet, M. John Harrison, a sort of legendary sci-fi writer, Alan Hollinghurst, Meilan Tan writes short fiction, Cole Swenson, again, a really wonderful poet, Holly Pester, again, an experimental poet. We've also hosted returning students who have published books or are otherwise working as professionals in the publishing industry as freelance writers, as performance poets, as magazine and small press publishers. So most recently, this last term, we hosted Chloe Timms, you can see her there, launching her novel, The Sea Women. And we also had Victoria Lloyd Barlow with her novel, All the Little Bird Hearts. Both of those novels were started on the MA, so we're immensely proud of both of them and what they've achieved. In the summer, we invite in the same slot industry professionals to come and speak about what they do, so what it's like to be a literary agent and how to get one, what it's like to run your own publishing house and what they're looking for as a small press publisher. And we also do some professional skills workshops, for example, on how to submit publications to agents, to competitions, how to give a public reading. You can also see on here some of our students reading their own work. So we typically have open mic nights once a term, and we also have launch events for student-led publications. Matt mentioned Literary Mentis. There's also a compilation of creative work that comes out every couple of years called Kent Review. So Canterbury has lots going on as a kind of literary and cultural centre. It's a relatively small city, but it's very vibrant. And there's a lot of students relative to the population. So our students can really embrace the opportunity to run their own events, to go along to the literary events that are happening in the city, to get involved with student publications, and really to form those kind of lasting, meaningful connections with their fellow writers that I think is really the most important reason that people come to do an MA in this subject. I'm very happy to answer questions now, or to please feel free to email me if you want to get in touch. I'd be happy to talk. Thanks.
Thanks, Amy. I think what we'll do is, if anyone has any questions, you are welcome to pop them in the chat. But for now, I'll hand over to Ryan, and then we can kind of do a Q&A at the end. So if you're ready, Ryan.
Yeah, absolutely. Hello, everyone. So I'm going to be talking about a different kind of degree than Matt and Amy, and that's a degree by research. So rather than having this kind of taught, structured experience, it's about you finding your own topic, developing it, and basically writing your own sustained piece of research. If that's an MA by research, that would be a piece of up to 40,000 words. And if that's a PhD, that would be a piece up to 100,000 words. We have critical PhDs. We also, in Amy's neck of the woods, we have a range of creative writing PhDs, and we've also got what we call a practice as research PhDs that have a critical component alongside a creative component. Our expectations for somebody who's coming in to do a piece of research is that I suppose that you've demonstrated that you're up to a certain standard. So normally it would be someone at a 2-1 level, as it would be in a British the British system. I suppose that's a kind of 3.3 to 3.7 GPA in US terms. Though of course we actually judge the application. So if you're below that and we think you've got what we want, you know, that will not be a barrier. If you're going to do a piece of work by research, it's all about finding a supervisor. It's about finding a relationship with a person. So whenever you produce some work by research, it's actually a very collaborative process. So the first thing that you're going to do is to go through through our staff list, where you'll see little summaries of the staff and the kind of research that they do. And going through that, the idea would be that you find somebody whose own research chimes with your own research. If you're having difficulty with that, you contact me. And I'm, as Director of Graduate Studies for Research, I'll suggest to you somebody that might be a good person to supervise your particular piece of research. Obviously, like Matt was saying, the research falls in basically a wide range of expertise within the university or within the school. Post-colonial, American studies, medieval and early modern studies, 18th century literature, 19th century literature, and so on. But actually, one of the things that we really do encourage is interdisciplinary research as well. And actually, whilst a lot of what we do is interdisciplinary by nature, and as Matt was suggesting, we can supervise PhDs across departments. So you might be taking a particularly historical perspective, and so would have somebody with history alongside somebody from English supervising projects like that. Similarly, we've had people working on kind of digital projects, so that we have somebody we've had somebody who does computer science, for instance, who's co-supervising a interdisciplinary research degree. So there really is a very wide range of research that is done. Just our students do just as wide-ranging research as the staff. In terms of people who apply to do research work at PhD, as soon as you put in an application, you will be automatically eligible for research funding. So all of our applicants will be encouraged to develop an application for the Arts and Humanities Research Council scholarships. So if you put in an application for PhD, you will be considered for that. There is full international scholarships are provided as part of that. Obviously, they're extraordinarily competitive, but if you have your application in, you'll already be talking to your supervisor, and your supervisor will give you support in developing a strong application. And even if you're not successful, it will be an extremely rewarding process in developing a really high quality piece of research, and will set your PhD off to a really great start in terms of putting together a very competent and persuasive application for funding. Like both Matt and Amy have been saying, there's lots of things for our postgraduates to get together as part of being part of a research community, from seminars in a wide range of areas. So there'll be special seminars in areas like post-colonial studies. Obviously, you've been hearing about the Creative Writing Series. Similarly, the Centre for Medieval and Early Modern Studies has weekly seminars. And so basically there's things going on all the time that are there for our postgraduate community to get together. There's also lots of funds available for our postgraduate students to do things that interest them, to bring people together. So that might be a writing retreat, that might be doing bringing somebody in for a particular kind of event. So these are all the kinds of things that happen in the university to kind of support and engender a postgraduate research community. Lots of other things are available for our postgraduate students in terms of skills, training, and so on, that is open to all of our research students. So that might be, say, developing your skills in digital humanities. You know, lots of our students, for instance, are interested in learning coding, but also the other kinds of skills that people want to develop. That might be things like public speaking, or conducting particular kinds of research. So let's say how to conduct interviews as part of a research technique with people that you're interested in working, how as well to kind of create databases, all this kind of stuff. This is training that is freely available to our postgraduate research students once we have them here. Other things that we do, we provide training for students who might be interested in teaching at university level or otherwise. We do kind of a teacher shadowing system. So basically, the supervisor of your PhD might get you to basically take some of their seminars, to begin with by shadowing their seminars to see their particular teaching methods, and then if you have the confidence, then you might take the opportunity to do some teaching yourself. And finally, as Matt mentioned, the possibility of auditing modules, and PhD and Masters by Research students also have the opportunity to audit modules as well. So they can do modules without taking on the assessments as part of that, and just through agreement with the seminar leader. I think that is it, but of course, you know, I'm open to any kind of questions anyone has as well.
Brilliant. Thank you, Ryan. And just thanks again, Matt and Amy, for presenting as well. If anyone has any questions, please let us know. We did share our contact details, and I know it's recorded, so you can definitely email any one of us. If you have general queries just about the university, please let me know. But yeah, we can open up to a Q&A for now.
I have a question, actually, if no one else does. Thanks everyone for your presentations. It was really informative, and I think, yeah, definitely have a better grasp on the Department of Literature there. And in terms of the Marshall Scholarship, we have a lot of scholars that have 2 years in the UK, so they might do a 2-year program, or they might do consecutive masters. So it's also helpful for me to be able to advise the ones that are going on to second year, who might either want to explore a different kind of, area of study, or that want to build on something. So that being said, I just wondered if, Ryan, like a research degree might be more suitable for someone who's already has a background in creative writing, or is it not that black and white? I know you mentioned you've got lots of training opportunities, so maybe it's not, but yeah, if you could speak to that.
Yeah, I do think that, so generally whenever people apply, we would generally suggest that they do a top MA in the first instance, and there's lots of good reasons for that. But basically, if you do the taught MA, it gives you the preparation how to be a professional researcher and how to be a writer at the kind of level that one would expect in a mature piece of critical work. So doing the taught masters is there really for people to develop that skill set, and the idea will be that people emerging from that are ready to go on and do independent research. Now, we do get people who have a strong research background. Some have often actually already done an MA in another area, and who will then do an MA by research. Sometimes it's also because they're not sure about taking 3 or 4 years out of their life, but there really is a topic that they are very keen to research, and this is another reason why people will do an MA by research. But yeah, in a way, it would be slightly exceptional just to accept somebody straight off the bat coming from an undergraduate straight into an MA by research. It would always happen in discussion with the supervisor. So the supervisor would have to be really convinced. And I suppose that if somebody sends in an absolutely fantastic proposal, and you know that you've got a sense that this person really has this kind of strong research skills anyway, then you know that might be possible.
No, thank you. That's really helpful. And I guess, yeah, kind of makes sense.
And I think Amy could probably speak to from the creative side.
Yeah, so the same applies really. We do tend to encourage applicants to take the MA, and I have occasionally had those conversations where I've suggested that they do that and then rethink. But we have also accepted, so because it's a slightly different context. So we have currently, for example, some students who don't have an MA in creative writing but do have quite a lot of professional publication experience. So they've already published novels and they're writing their second novel. So that would be another way in, but typically we would expect a pretty firm footing in the field in one way or another. Yeah.
Thank you. That's helpful. I have another question if no one else does. Matt, I know you spoke about the Native American was it a research center or was it a program? I just wondered if someone was interested in taking part in that, would that be like alongside kind of a degree they were doing, or would that be as part of the research for their degree? Because I know we've got a lot of applicants who are interested in Indigenous studies. So yeah, just wondered about that.
Yeah, so the kind of Beyond the Spectacle project itself is yeah, that's not necessarily something that students would be able to partake in themselves. Same with Refugee Tales. They do both projects and other research projects that people run, like Ryan's research project and others. Will hold events and talks that students can come along to and hear about the work and meet international and national kind of scholars in that area. And then that informs the teaching that we do as well. But what we do have, say, for example, for one of the kind of things that's come off the back of that project, the Beyond the Spectacle project, is there's the School of English has an interdisciplinary centre for it's called the Centre for Indigenous Studies and, sorry if I get this right, the Centre for Indigenous and Settler Colonial Studies, which was set up by David Stirrup, and that brings in lots of different scholars from across the humanities, and it's a kind of centre that again runs events, reading groups quite regularly, that MA students and PhD students would be able to get involved in to think about, you know, kind of expanding their knowledge and expanding their interests.
Okay, yeah, thanks for that. I didn't quite catch that at the beginning, that it was a project and not something that was kind of.
No, good to clarify that. Thanks.
Yeah. Thanks. I think that's all for me. Well, I guess if no one else has any questions at this stage, I guess we'll go ahead and stop the recording. But thanks so much for everyone for participating. I learned a lot, and I know that this will be really useful for loads of applicants and knowing more about the University of Kent and more specifically the Department of Literature. So appreciate it, and I'm sure if people have questions afterwards, they'll get in touch.
Thanks, Haley, and